We need to experience linear time and experience frame by frame and things and life spread out so that we can come to new perspectives, new perceptions, a greater understanding of who we are as co-creators of life.
Your book explains karmic imprints as unfinished energetic business that shapes this life. What are the clearest signs someone is living out old karma, not their true self?
What's going on in the subconscious? I mean, people find themselves in situations, so I can take them through a whole lifetime. I take them through a whole lifetime, then I take them out of that life, look down at that life. I've had one lady I took back 10 lifetimes. I brought her out of one life and then describe for me how she felt about that life. She goes, oh, he was a disgusting person and a terrible human being and blah, blah, blah.
You have two choices. You can choose pain to suffer or pain for growth. So you just choose which side of the coin you want to be. But as Lao Tzu said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Hey, Conscious Man 7 family, quick question before we start. Do you love the depth of these conversations but hate when ads break the flow? I get it. Ads can feel like speed bumps on a highway, pulling you out of that deep zone. That's why we created a way for you to enjoy every episode completely ad-free while supporting the show at the same time. For just a few bucks a month on Patreon or Locals, you'll get full access to uninterrupted episodes. You'll get direct access to me so you can ask me any questions that you have, some cool other perks like early releases, and you'll also help us keep bringing you the powerful conversations that mainstream platforms won't touch. The link is in the show notes. Join us there and be part of this movement. Ever look up and see those dull, grey skies streaked with chemtrails and you feel your energy sink? You're not imagining it. Something in you knows the sky isn't supposed to look that way. But what if you could bring back the blue? What if there was a way to clear the air inside you and above you? That's where the Chembo comes in. They create powerful orgonite, tools that generate orgone energy, the life force that helps neutralize EMFs from your mobile phone, your Wi-Fi, and even 5G. It's nature's way of restoring balance, bringing cleaner air, calmer energy, and deeper sleep. Every piece from the Chembo is handmade, from tactical tower busters to beautiful pyramids and jewelry, crafted with the precise ingredients to generate real orgone energy. And here's the best part. They've proven it. For over 10 years, they've cleared thousands of miles of chemtrails, bringing the blue back to the skies around the world. So if you're ready to take back your weather and your well-being, go to thechembo.com. Use coupon code CM7 for 10% off and experience the shift for yourself. Don't fear the chemtrails or the EMF. Be empowered with the Chembo and never feel helpless again. If you are new to this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share because that helps us to be recommended in the algorithms. If you would like to support this podcast, please check out our merch store on Amazon with the brand Todd and Me. We've got some cool t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and sweaters. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And if you're now starting a spiritual journey, you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you're currently on a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, please hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 and it will help you to get some magic mushrooms. Enjoy the show and stay tuned because we have some more great content coming soon. What if the patterns running your life were written into your soul before you were born and could actually be healed? Today, we're stepping into a conversation where astrology, hypnosis, and quantum consciousness aren't abstract ideas, they're living tools for real transformation. This is not horoscopes. This is not positive thinking. This is the work of real soul integration. My guest today is Marvin Wilkerson, astrologer, hypnotherapist, and author of Soul Fusion Healing, where he reveals how your birth chart becomes a spiritual GPS, how subconscious patterns shape your destiny, and how soul fragmentation can be healed through deep integrative work. In this episode, we explore how past life imprints influence your present emotional patterns, how the subconscious mind holds the key to your highest potential, and how healing at the quantum level can dissolve cycles you've been trapped in for years. We're using astrology as the map, hypnosis as the shovel, and soul fusion as the destination, and by the end of this conversation, you'll walk away with at least one practical tool to break a lifelong pattern and step into the next level of who you truly are. If you've ever felt stuck, misaligned, or out of rhythm with your purpose, this is the episode you've been waiting for.
When truth is blurred by lies and misinformation, perception becomes reality. What will you perceive your reality to be?
Liberate your fears and walk with me.
Sit down and meditate. Connect with your soul.
Be a monster and then learn how to control it.
You got to be willing to do the work.
So it really goes really deep in terms of words and etymology and what they mean. So this is why it is really hard to really crack the matrix, because there's so many levels and layers to it, Marvin, welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. How are you today, mate?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Yes, as I was saying off camera, I'm really interested to talk to you today because you mix a lot of different modalities together, which is a bit unusual because most people tend to be one or the other. And I'm kind of a mixed modality type of guy as well. So I wanted to hear how you blend all of these things together, because I'm sure that, a lot of people will be very familiar with one subject or the next, but to hear it all together, I think is a bit unique and is a very, very unique USP, unique selling point, So let's start with origins and awakening. So you've shared that your spiritual awakening began when someone introduced you to Krishnamurti's Think on These Things, which completely reframed your beliefs. Take us into that moment. What shook you enough to change the direction of your entire life?
Well, because you're indoctrinated into church, dogma, baptism, and so on. So you construct your world around the Bible and Jesus as it's being presented to you by church. As my mother was going through questioning, well, what she didn't understand a lot of things that goes on with human beings or babies and all of that. And then she couldn't handle the what the ministers and preachers may say, well, you have to have faith. And so that got her to starting her discovery and search. For me, I came home and I was defending my belief, which was in the church concepts. And that's when she threw the book at me and said, well, here, read this. And if you haven't read Krishnamurti or understand Judah Krishnamurti, you have to understand this is a very enlightened being that I enjoyed his answers to. He was like in an auditorium and people were giving him questions. And he would, in turn, helping them have questions to what their questions were. And it just got me into really thinking in my own mind about those questions, which then led me into much more of a metaphysical inquiry. So that's when I started I got an astrology reading, and I went and got a psychic reading and tarot card readings. And I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Virginia, where the Edgar Cayce Foundation is. And this is the greatest prophet of the 20th century, right? So I had a lot of influence that helped me to start doing my own personal search. And the first thing that I latched onto was regression theory. And once I started learning about regression, well, it started answering a whole lot of questions that the church or Christianity cannot answer. And so in doing so, that was the beginning of my journey, talking to people about, reincarnation.
I can imagine that, because you're a little bit older than me, that when you started doing that, people looked at you like you were absolutely mad. People thought you were absolutely mad, no?
Well, it's funny, Todd. I had a business, a car repair business in Norfolk, Virginia, which is right around the naval base. And I would have a lot of young sailors coming in, and they just loved my philosophy and the philosophy that I was sharing with them. And so this is how I started building a philosophy around life. And they just loved hearing it and talking about it. And I totally love talking about it. So that's how it all got started.
Very interesting. So you touched on Edgar Cayce just now. So you spent years studying him, 14,000 reading archives.
Yeah.
What was the single most paradigm shifting truth you learned from Cayce's work that still guides you today?
Oh, it's just so much. When you take out a reading and start going through those archives, and him saying things like, well, this soul gained in this lifetime, this soul gained and lost and then regained, this soul lost in this lifetime. And you got to understand, out of 14,000 readings, over 8,000 of them were medical. So now you're talking about healing from a very high level of suggestion when he was in his mode of being channeling. He wasn't awake or aware of what he was saying when he was giving medical advice to people on how to heal. So, this is just an astounding body of work. And so when you go in there, I used to go up and do a lot of meditations up in the top of the Edgar Cayce Foundation. And it's just a spiritual experience because of what he represents, being from an outer world or an otherworldly mind. We've had people like Seth and Abraham and Bashar and people like that are now bringing forth these concepts that Cayce talked about very prevalently. I think, probably one of the most important things was, reading his book on the Essenes. You had a lot of people that would go up and read the readings and then write books on the readings. The story of Jesus was all in there. And these are concepts. He presented material that you're not going to find biblical for sure. And at that time in my life, this would have been late 60s and early 70s. So these kinds of books weren't available. And so that's why it was mystical. And it's just like when you listen to a Seth or an Abraham Hicks or a Bashar, it's mystical. Of course, now, it's extraterrestrial, or it's, I don't even think of Bashar as being extraterrestrial. I think he's another dimensional being, at a different dimension. Well, we didn't have that in the 70s. I mean, Edgar Casey was the closest thing that came from an otherworldly or other perspective entirely. I mean, I wasn't even thinking in terms of dimensions. And so all of this has, been an unfolding journey of learning all these different things. And of course, what really attracted me was astrology. How somebody, and actually it was a English woman that actually was my first astrology teacher. And she gave me a reading, and I was just completely, totally blown away that somebody could know that level of intimate things about me as an individual just from reading a chart. And so that certainly enticed me to begin what is now over a 50-year study.
Wow.
And reading over 10,000 of people. So
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. And so it becomes an observation correlation. And now as we're opening up as a humanity, society, and a peoples, we understand that everything is connected. Now we're getting into quantum physics, and now each one of us is equal in the universe, and we're all connected. So there is no disconnect. And so when you start getting into that kind of a level, it becomes, it just becomes more and more at my age. It just makes you giddy.
Well, right? I am really surprised at how fast the Overton window has shifted in terms of the topics you talk about. So like in my case, and I'm much younger than you, when I started to grasp the things that I know, my journey started in 2017. And I remember I would be talking to people in 2017, 2018, actually even before that, because I found out about the Anunnaki about 2016, and I was dabbling with it and stuff, talking to people. And people just right up straight said to me I was mad and I was chatting a lot of rubbish and I was crazy. And now, we're 9 years on from there, and you bring up the Anunnaki and you bring up ETs and like, yeah, okay, cool. Next. You know what I mean? It's almost like it does no one bats an eye. Like seriously, right. you bring up interdimensional beings, or you know what I mean, you talk about these kind of things, and people look at you now like, in actual fact, they look at you with interest, because it is almost like, okay, I've never heard of this before, but keep talking, right? Like, what is this all about? Before, you would just get flat dismissed, So it's really interesting.
Well, I mean, and I talked about that in the book because I wanted to help people understand the different ages between the Piscean age and the Aquarian age. And that's where we've been in a transition for most of my life, moving from that Piscean age into the Aquarian age. And the Aquarian age is elucidating more and more people because we're understanding mentally and grasping these huge concepts like quantum physics and so forth. So science has advanced us into being able to build a whole different philosophy about life. And I'm reading a book now called Magic Bag. And that was channeled back in 1960s. A good friend of mine was on a radio show, and he was a radio president, and he did a show where this Mark Probert actually did a kind of like a seance into a communicating with what they called the inner circle of light, which then shared their wisdom, which, I mean, it was way, way profound, way, way over a lot of people's heads in the 60s. And it's still, I mean, I'm just enjoy thoroughly reading these kinds of things that are coming through. And we're able to grasp it and understand and see that we are all, as a humanity, as a society, starting to awaken to our higher level of awareness.
Most definitely, most definitely. So you were trained in Native American spiritual medicine under Sun Bear. What did indigenous wisdom teach you about healing that modern society still misunderstands?
Well, Native Americans, I mean, they were a highly spiritual group of people. So just studying the Native American medicine wheel for 10 years and learning how they used it and understanding some of the Native American ideas and philosophies and spirituality, especially. I mean, my spiritual teacher was very deep into Native American spirituality through Sun Bear and Sun Bear's medicine wheel. And there's medicine wheels all across North America. So understanding that the Native Americans were always going to Great Spirit or Father Sun or, you know, those kinds of connections before they went into war, before they went looking for food. That spiritual connection was always a part of their daily activities and what they were doing, their activities in general. And so that is just so that leads you into reading a couple of the Native American chiefs, which had some profound things to say about life. And so that was an early, I went through that in the 90s, so obviously it was a little more prevalent to understand their concepts and integrate them into another philosophy. And then, of course, Sun Bear integrated it into an astrological medicine wheel. So he taught it as not only an astrological medicine wheel, but a nature wheel, an animal wheel. And so a circle and the circle of the wheel is the beginning and the end. And when you put life on a wheel, it's always in a beginning and an end. And you can see it in our sun moon, where we have a 30-day cycle of a sun moon. And so learning cycles was a big deal. And that's a very big deal as far as understanding part of the philosophy that I've been studying most of my life.
You said something really interesting and important as well, that everything is cycles. And I'm seeing that in my own journey and life as well, because everything seems to be in this sort of a wave where you have ups and downs in life, you know, and then you have growth and then you have reduction. So there's always, even in business, because business, you don't grow all the time. You have expansions and contractions, expansions, contractions. When you look at the stock market, you know, you have expansions, contractions. And it really seems like if this life that we have is ever cyclical, and it's just like the birth death, you know, because you come here, you're born, you die, and then you're supposed to go back. You're supposed to go back to source or go to another level. But somehow we seem to be trapped here, repeating this cycle, right? But the nature of life should be, you come here, you play a little bit, experience life, go to another level, play there, disappear, go to another level, and then you just make your way back to source. And you see it in our cycles here in winter, spring, summer, and fall. You know, again, it's all cyclical, and those cycles happen every single year, right? It never stops. You know, the sun comes up every day, and then the moon comes up every night, right? Again, more cycles. So I think that when people start to understand that life is about cycles, and when you start to understand the cycles, I think then it makes life a little bit easier to grasp and to understand the complexities that come with it, you know, and it helps you in your journey, you know. So,
well, yeah. I mean, basically, you're talking about the Hermetic principles. All is rhythm.
As above, so below.
As above, so below. All is mind.
Absolutely. In fact, I actually have that on a shirt.
All is, there is no time and there is no space. We've made that up. Einstein
everything.
Told you that. Everything is now.
True.
There is no time. Buddha said, if you want to know today, look at the past. If you want to know tomorrow, look at today.
Yeah.
If you want to know the past, look at today. Look at the now.
Yep. Yes,
if you want to know your future, look at the now.
Correct.
And so all is one. And I think that's, I mean, you even kind of touched on it a little bit. It's dimensionally shifting. All is energy. If all is energy, our job is to reflect the frequency and vibration that we choose. So the attraction principle is about frequency and vibration of energy. And if all is energy, now you understand how you create life, and we live to come into a greater sense of reality, a greater sense of awareness.
Yeah, definitely. It's mad, because if people really understood how energetic the world really, really is, you know, people would really take stock on themselves and do inner work. Because I like to describe energy as like the wind. You can't see the wind, but you know it is real and it exists because you see the leaves moving on the trees. You can see the destruction from a hurricane and stuff like that. It's the same with energy. You can't see it, but you can feel it, right? Mm-hmm. You can feel shifts in you. So you know it's real. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And I think what has happened is that we have been misled to focus on things that we can only see, instead of not also focusing on things that we feel, right? Because they know, but it's not like a feeling of feelings with sad, with grief, anger, and happiness. It's a feeling that is like deep inside you, where you feel the connectivity to everything, where you feel the connectivity to the planet, really, because planet is our mother, right? So it's like a deep level of feeling that we've just not been taught, you know? And it is basic. I think that quantum theory and quantum physics does a very good job of explaining those high level concepts. So let's talk about soul fusion, karma, and quantum consciousness. So you describe quantum healing as the loss of personal identity and stepping into the universal mind. For someone who's new to this, describe a 60-second real life moment that shows what quantum healing actually feels like.
Well, when you go into the deepest meditation you can possibly imagine, and that's a pretty strong place. You know, Deepak Chopra talked about it. Joe Dispenza's talked about it. As a hypnotist, it's easy to take people into that reality of loss of separateness of universal consciousness. And when you're in universal consciousness, well, you're in perfection. You are connected to God. You have no separate identity. You are in alignment. And ultimately, that's who we are. And we're always there. But because we need to experience linear time and experience frame by frame and things and life spread out so that we can come to new perspectives, new perceptions, a greater understanding of who we are as co-creators of life. Well, then we have to have that sense of I, that sense of me, to be able to experience that individuality and in a way that we can come to greater understanding of what Jesus said, ye are all gods. Even greater things than I have done, you shall do. Well, if that is the case, then we are the co-creator of everything in life. And when you want to, Deepak Chopra talked about it, the whirling dervishes actually use that loss of identity and healing through music and dance. So when you think about when you are creating something, you're not thinking something else. You're thinking of one thing. You've got focused, because the conscious mind can only think of one thing at a time. And so when you're focused on creating something, there is nothing else. You're creating. And so that would be your experience to understand it on a daily basis. I mean, I think what really brought that home to me was a guide in Italy that was talking about what the great artist, the great
Michelangelo?
Michelangelo. And so Michelangelo was actually a bipolar, and he was a recluse. But yet he could go out to a block of granite and actually see what was inside that block of granite. So this leads to understand depression. Depression is when you do not have a forward thinking of a way to go. So you get stuck in your mind. So he was a manic depressive, but yet he could be creative when he was doing his artistic work as well as doing sculptures. So when you are a creative individual, you're not depressed. You don't get depressed. You're creating. So the way I work with clients is that when you are in a creative activity, you are literally bringing down universal consciousness into form so that you're now putting it out into a form in the world. Now, when you quit creating, that energy draws back up and you are left to your ego.
Very interesting. You know, what you said just now reminded me of something that my shaman said to me. And he said to me that many years ago, the people that were supposedly like mad or schizophrenic or bipolar, those were actually the people that would be the guides in the spiritual realm. Those who would end up becoming like the shaman and stuff, because they could see things that the others couldn't see. And they all had a purpose in the community. And it was for that purpose, for be the creator of like art, or be the shaman, or be the medicine person. And in today's world, those people are ostracized or just put on pills. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And basically that doesn't allow them to really fulfill their abilities, because clearly they're tapping into something that we can't really feel or see, right? And, you know, I think that people that we call mad, I think they're actually a lot more sane than we actually give them credit for, because they can see beings we can't, you know? And we do know that there are beings around us all now. And like I did a show with this girl in Australia, and wow, she was saying after the show that we finished, she says, "Oh, Todd, I can see all the beings around you." I was like, "Really?" She says, "Yeah, and they're protecting you." I was like, "Wow, okay." And it just gave me goosebumps straight away, because like, you know, even with this show, like I was guided to do the show. So she started telling me a whole bunch of stuff, and I was like, okay, like clearly we never spoke before, but she just knows these things, because she's like, hold on, my guides are talking to me. And she just starts telling me stuff. And I'm like, okay. So my point is that people like her would be considered mad. People that of the past, then they were the ones that would channel in knowledge. They'd be the ones that would be the guides of the community. But today, we just put them on pills, you know?
Well, you know, I dealt with a bipolar in hypnosis one time, and she was going through a breakup of her marriage, and very confused and very torn apart. And when I had her in a deep state and was doing some kind of inquiring with her, she rose up and she said, "That's why I separated." Because she could not understand how her husband had wanted to separate and take everything from her. So her personality could not deal with it. So she had to develop a second personality. And this is where multiple personalities come in. Now, it's like I tell people with children of ADD or ADHD. These kids being born now are built for the future, because the mind and the amount of information coming at us in years to come is going to be so fast, so rapid, that, you know, our typical way of thinking is not going to keep up. Their rapid mind and rapid thinking will most definitely come into the normalcy versus the way we think. And that's part of evolution. So I think that you're just birthing in children now over the last, 15 years, maybe 20 years. I mean, that stuff wasn't even around when I was a kid. That's just like you get put on Ritalin for the stuff that I did when I was a little boy because I was hyperactive. So you see, as we go through generations and we go through the evolution of time of all society and humanity, we're going to bring in people that are going to challenge us, that are different, and there's nothing wrong with them. We can't give somebody a pill to bring them back to what we call normal. We got to help educate them at their level of understanding and learning and putting things together. And then that in turn teaches us. So when we have to teach it, we have to learn it.
Facts.
And I think that that's kind of where we are in the evolution of children and all these dynamics of giving people pills to heal them. You're just giving them a pill because you're trying to bring them back to normal. And what's normal?
That's a good question. What is normal? I mean, right now I see kids I actually saw one child that was 9 months with a smartphone in their hand, manipulating the smartphone. And I'm like, gosh damn, these kids are just way more advanced than we were.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's bringing us all into the Aquarian age, which is all is mind. So we have this capability to live with an extraordinary mental capacity. And so that's the Aquarian age. The Aquarian age is air. We're coming out of the Piscean age, which is water. So we're moving out of the water age into the air age. And air is mental. So we're moving into the genius age, the advancement through an advanced mentality and mind. And that's, I put that in the book because I thought that was very important to help people understand the evolutionary part of what we're all going through as who we're moving in to become. I'm in agreement, and I put that in the book as also, is that we are going to be verified of knowing and seeing extraterrestrials definitely before the end of the decade. And I think that it's more likely around the 2027.
I have been saying since I've been starting doing podcasts that we are going to see extraterrestrials, before,
no doubt.
And here it is now, you're saying the same thing I'm saying, right? And I said to people, I think before 2030 comes, I think we're going to see them, because things are just happening so fast.
Well, they're already here.
Facts.
They're already here.
But don't forget that the Pentagon brought up papers.
They're operating on a different dimension. So you keep looking for a humanistic form, and they're operating on a completely different dimension that we can't see. And I tell people, look, if you want to know reality, first off, you can't see reality. Reality is 1/10,000th of a second. So how are you going to look out that window and see reality? The only thing that this brain sees is personal consciousness. What is acceptable to you? That's what you see. What is keeping you safe and acceptable? You don't see other dimensions. You don't see all the energy that's going on. And so that's a pretty astounding thought. So that leads you in to quit trying to define reality from your mind in a mental term. It's not mental. It's energy. And you can only conceptually see a third dimension of that activity that's going on out there energetically.
Okay, so you were talking just now about the all is mind. So let's delve into that. So you write in your book, the all is mind. How does this principle help someone who feels trapped by trauma or emotional cycles?
Good question. I try to get everybody to understand that there's only one moment in time, and that's now. And if you quit looking backwards, then you'll get rid of your anxieties. If you'll quit looking forwards, you'll get rid of your depression. There's only now. So if you focus your mind on what is in front of you, well, then you're not going backwards and forwards. You're being in the moment. And when you can just be in the moment, then you can be attuned to your feelings much more than the analysis that's going on in your head.
I would have thought it would have been the opposite. I would have thought that the past would have given you depression and the future anxiety because you're stressed about the future. And because of the things that happened in the past, it would make you depressed because that's normally where the fears and the traumas have occurred.
Well, the expectation is what is the difference. When you're looking at anxiety, you're fearful, which is the vast majority of all problems is fear. You're fearful that what happened then is going to happen now.
Yes.
So you're trying to, all you're focused on is what was instead of what is.
Okay. So this is why you're saying that the past then gives anxiety because you're anxious that the past will occur again.
Yes.
Okay.
And that works out whether it's parental abuse or anything. You see, I've done enough age regression to know that we experience life in that early upbringing, and you're mimicking, you're experiencing what you're seeing in the moment. And so you're using that now as a probability of that occurring again. And that's so your fear self, your ego self is going to keep you away from that. Now, if you're using fear or that anxiety plays out in the body. So when you have an anxiety, your subconscious mind recognizes that body's reaction to what you're thinking. And then it creates an anxiety to keep you from doing what you're doing. Because that's what you're relating to is from the past. Whatever you're doing now comes forward from the past. And the subconscious mind recognizes the body has stressed up, tightened up. So now it's a threat. So now it needs to keep you from that threat. And say, I've worked with agoraphobics that can't leave the house. And they're the perfect example. So they can go into, if they get outside of the house, there's threats out there. So their body tightens up. They get sweaty. They get, their fear starts to overtake them. That's anxiety. So when somebody says, well, I'm phobic or I'm anxiety, well, then I want to know how it's playing out on the body. Because that's how you're going to know if it's for sure.
Okay, so then with regards to the future, which you say causes depression, is that because the future has not already come and because you can't control it, it makes you depressed because it's uncontrollable and unknown?
Well, it makes you depressed because you're not being creative. Remember what I've said about being creative, you're bringing out the vertical energy from universal consciousness. Yep. So you're staying in the moment while you're being creative. Well, when when you're done with whatever you're creating, that vertical energy rescinds, and you're left now with the ego that is worried about what maybe, might be, could be, should be.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So because you're worrying about the unknown, you get depressed.
Well, yeah, you start a fear, and depression gets going in the mind on what I should do or might do or could do or whatever. And so now you're fearing the future. And of course, now what did Jesus say? Why worry tomorrow when tomorrow will take care of itself? But what I tell clients is, why are you worried about tomorrow? Because you don't have all the information tomorrow's going to bring you.
Okay, I see it now. So basically, it is almost like someone can be depressed about being broke, but in reality, in their present moment, they may not actually be broke, but they are so afraid that they will go broke.
Right.
So they get depressed about going broke. And then because they're depressed about going broke, they go broke because they do things to make them go broke because they've created the negative feedback loop system.
When you have a fear, that's an attraction principle. You're going to attract the fear. You see?
Right. Okay.
Everything this mind comes up with, you attract it. And if you're fearful that you're going to be broke, well, universal law says, well, you have to prove to yourself that you're going to be broke.
Yes, and this leads to self-sabotage, where you go and do things to make yourself go broke, to have a confirmation. Yes, I am broke. Wow. Okay. Wow. That's levels.
This is why I wrote a whole chapter on self-talk. Dr. David Hawkins really brought home to me the understanding of fear. There are no fears. You're making it up. If you give me 101 fears, I'll give you 101 things you have made up.
Well, that is why they say fear is false evidence appearing real.
That's right. And so
okay.
if you're to be self-realized or ultimately godly, well, you're absolutely going to attract whatever is in error. And that's the reason for reincarnation, to correct misperceptions and misconcepts that are in error. And the only way you can do that is experience it.
It's true. It's true. Because I say to people that first you get the challenge, then you get the lesson, afterwards you get the wisdom. And you can't get the wisdom without going through those two stages. And the only way that you get the wisdom is through the experience, because that's how you learn, right?
Yeah.
So, wow, that's another confirmation. I just came up with that a day. I was in the kitchen and I was like, it just hit me like, wow.
Well, and this works out into the medical issues that we all have. I tell people the subconscious mind doesn't hear negatives. So if you say, I don't want to be sick, well, it didn't hear don't. It's a positive imaging unit for the future. So if you say, I don't want to be sick, you're going to be sick because the subconscious mind heard, I want to be sick.
Yeah, it doesn't know if the information is real or not.
So I try to get people to stop thinking of the negatives. Don't say anything negative. There's no point in it. I say, if you get in your car and you say, I don't want to go to the store, do you expect you'd go to the store? No.
True.
But if you say, I desire to do this, well, you're going to do it because you're a creator. So you create everything you choose to create. Everything.
This is why the word abracadabra means I create as I speak. So there's so much
create
levels.
Abundance.
Yes.
What could be a greater mantra for a person that is in fear of money? I create abundance. I am abundance. I am is the power of the universe, right?
Yes.
That's God consciousness. I
Yes.
am.
Yes.
I am that I am.
Very much so. Very much so. So your book explains karmic imprints as unfinished energetic business that shapes this life. What are the clearest signs someone is living out old karma, not their true self?
Well, all of the thinking that your critical analytical mind brings, all the fears that you live your life with on a daily basis, these are karmic circumstances. These are soul fragmentations. These are definitely coming out of a past life experience that was you formed a misperception, miscreation about. Now, to take this a little further, when you interpret an astrological chart, you understand that early upbringing. The upbringing is your conditioning and programming. This is the language you use in your life. Before you're the age of 21 years old, you've been told 60,000 times who you are, who they are, what the world is, and your place in it. Well, that isn't the language that in alignment with you in most cases. That's not the authentic you. So when you're using language from 20 years old on, you spend the rest of your life redefining your life so that whatever you lacked as a child, that's what you're working the hardest on to prove and turn that around to being successful. So if you didn't have a good, steady home or a foundation for a home, well, when you grow up, you're going to want to have a solid foundation in home. And so that programming and conditioning from this lifetime and other lifetimes are going to help you to build a home life, a solid foundation. And that's karmic. I mean, you picked your parents.
You know, I've heard this so many times, and I ask myself, okay, because I've had people ask me this question, but why would they do such a thing? You know what I mean? In picking my parents to be the way they are. Because people come and say to me, Todd, I came up in loads of trauma, X, Y, Z. So they say to me, but Todd, okay, let's entertain that. Why would they do that? And I can't give them answers. I just say,
well, that's the answer. Because I'll guarantee you, wherever that pain was from growing up, that's what they're going to be working on to manifest in this lifetime to overcome that pain.
Okay. Well, you know, I was telling a friend of mine recently that I think that from my observation that pain is just part of the process. And you have two choices. You can choose pain to suffer or pain for growth. So you just choose which side of the coin you want to be. But as Lao Tzu said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice.
Yeah.
So I think that if we change our mindset to I don't want to say embrace pain, but accept that pain is just part of the entire process. And then we choose, okay, so if I keep doing this thing, I'm going to have pain. If I choose to do something different, I'm going to have pain as well. But one destination is for sure going to lead to nothingness, which is suffering, Or the other one is I can create the possibility that I can actually have growth, because growth is not guaranteed. But if you work on growth, you have a much higher chance of having growth than having suffering because you're doing something different. So I think is a very important distinction that we just accept that you're going to have pain. And once you accept it, then I think it becomes a little bit easier to navigate in this matrix that we live in, you know?
Well, there's two things. There's desire and visualization. You should always pursue your desires. You do not make your desires. Desires come from the soul. Think of that for a second. Desires come from the soul. Even if your desire leads you into a negative situation, well, then you learn from that situation. The soul will certainly send you into whatever situation it needs to send you into if it thinks you're going to learn from it. I've had people come in and say, I meditate 3 hours a day. Why did all these bad things happen to me? I'm trying to be spiritual. And I say, quit trying to be spiritual because you are spiritual. How about trying to be human?
That's a good one.
How about just being a human? You're here to be human. And so you follow your desires because they're coming, they're leading you, they're guiding you. Now, when you visualize what you do want, and you can't even speak without visualizing, it's impossible. So when you visualize what you do want and start working towards it, it's like Maxwell Maltz said in psychodynamics. The subconscious mind creates it. You're not the creator. People hate on me when I tell them, you do nothing. You do nothing. Spirit does it. Your subconscious mind does it.
Facts.
And the way it does it is it draws new neural pathways, new neural connections. It electrifies the body. It electrifies the auric field outside of your body. And that becomes the attraction, repulsion, adhesion, cohesion principle of your life. So you reflect what you do want in a positive, and you attract it to you, and you repulse anything that does not fit your frequency and attraction principle.
You know, right? The way you describe the soul is almost like the soul is a schizophrenic for growth, and it doesn't care. It's just going to put you
right.
in every situation just to get growth. That's nuts, man. The way you describe it, honestly.
Why did you send me into this?
So
that's the beauty of it all. That's the connectedness of it all.
The beauty. I mean, I can see the beauty, but I can see some other people being chuckily like, beauty, you know what I mean? Dude, that was just in all of these situations because of desires.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're telling me that the soul wants growth. Like, I think the soul is mad, but I'm only playing devil's advocate, right? Where the way you describe it is like the soul is a schizophrenic for growth, and it doesn't care. And it's just going to put you in every situation possible to get growth. And until you grow, this is what I am hearing, you know?
Well, that's eons been talked about from eons ago. From all enlightened beings, all say the same thing. And so, yeah, you know, it's like, it's very difficult to hear, you're not the doer. Spirit's the doer.
Wow.
But you see, you're the vessel Spirit uses to be unique, to be individualistic, to create, to use this energy to create something that's very unique, as you're a unique individual. And it can only be expressed through you.
Interesting. So some people use the term soul loss metaphorically, but you describe it as literal fragmentation. How does the soul actually fragment, and can every part always return?
Well, look, it's this. When you have a trauma in your life, that trauma is separating you from your authentic you. When you have an accident or a surgery, or you have an emotional moment, you're leaving the God part of yourself, the self-realized self. And you're now operating out of the ego structure. And so you're fragmenting who you are. You're using emotion instead of feeling. Feelings are moment to moment. Feelings are the absolute truth. Emotions are true. But the problem is there's good emotions and negative emotions. And when you're using negative emotions, by and large, negative emotions are creating a fragment, a separate identity, a separate you, just like multiple personalities. So that's soul fragmentation. You fragment because you're not being authentically you, which is a co-creator.
Wow. Okay, so you touched on ego death just now. So ego death is a controversial concept. For you, from your experience,
you cannot have ego death. What you have is an ego structure that allows you to be individualistic. But what you're supposed to be doing, what they're trying to say with an ego death, is that you're trying to kill off the ego because of it's a desire. It's a critical, analytical, evaluating, judging mind. And so desire is not to be killed. It's to be acceptance of desire and then controlling what that desire looks like to the ego mind so that the ego don't get fascinated about anything in life, so that you can experience things as they are. I mean, that's what Lao said, let reality be reality.
Okay, so from your experience in hypnosis, what are the risks of going deep too fast, too deep, and how do you keep your client safe when, is related to ego death?
The subconscious mind does that. In other words, I've had people in regression and they experience things and then they start abreacting and say, I can't handle it, I can't handle it. And so you bring them out peacefully. And so the subconscious mind is not going to allow the conscious mind to experience what it believes the conscious mind is not capable of handling. So you're really not going too deep. You're going to the depth of what you're capable of achieving. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. When you're working with somebody to hypnotize you, it's heterohypnosis. You can go deeper when I help you into hypnosis to relax the body, to relax that sense of separateness. And the more you can relax the separateness, then in the higher dimensions you can achieve. I've been working with the pineal gland, and I just worked with a client this morning Um, and I did a hypnosis on achieving pineal gland awakening. The pineal gland is a part of it's a gland that controls the sleep-awake cycle, circadian cycle. But it's also metaphysically known as the intuitive brain, as the instinctive brain, and dimensional brain. So when you get into these higher dimensions, and when you're using intuition and psychic ability, you're using the pineal gland. And so I've been working on guiding people into that area to where they can experience that in pineal, the pineal understanding and enlightenment, symbolisms.
Isn't the pineal gland also responsible for spiritual deciphering of or understanding of what is true and what is not true?
Well, the pineal gland doesn't really have to work on anything that's a negative, because the pineal gland is like the soul. It's familiar with truth. You know, when people go into hypnosis, there isn't negative that can happen because they're in a higher dimension that all negative now is gone. See, the ego mind creates negativity. It creates the fear. Your analytical, critical, evaluating, judging mind is your enemy. It creates 5% of your reality. 5. The subconscious mind creates 95% of your reality. So we live 80% of our life is lived out, comes from the subconscious mind, not from thinking.
Very interesting.
I'm trying to remember the person that said,
the subconscious mind is a lot more responsible for who we are, what we are, and our results than I think people realize. Because the subconscious mind basically determines your mindset. It also is what stores all your thoughts and beliefs and fears and traumas. And it is almost like a deck of cards. So you have to stack the deck of cards to have more positive things in the front of it, so that you can pull from the front. Because what happens is that if you have the subconscious stacked with a lot of fears, traumas, and all that kind of stuff, that is all you're going to manifest and attract and become, and that's what you're going to believe. Because if you think it, then you believe it, and then you go in the world, and the world confirms that belief. So it is. I didn't think it was 80%. I thought it was actually higher than 80% in terms of how we live our lives. If it's 95% of our actions come from the subconscious mind.
Well, let's think about. I like the quote from Einstein. He said, if I think I think 99 times and find nothing, I stop thinking, swim in silence, and the truth comes to me.
Very interesting. It's very much like sometimes you're doing and doing and doing and doing to try to get a result and you're not getting it. And then sometimes you just need to stop doing and then you find you see what's the solution to solve the problem. So
Right.
It's very much akin to that, you know? So let's shift gears to talk about astrology as a spiritual GPS. So you say that astrology reveals psychological conditioning and karmic wounds. Walk us through one archetypal chart pattern and show us how you'd use it as a healing blueprint.
Well, we talked earlier about understanding your early life home bringing and your home inside of you, and then working to manifest it in your greater desire as you got older. Because it's an energy map. It's all energy. And we know that that energy in that solar system affects all life on this planet. And so the moment you're born, that map of your soul has now mapped this life that you're going to live. And so when you read the different energies that planets represent, and you read the relationship each energy has to other energies, this gives us ideas about how it's going to manifest or how you're manifesting it. Because that's where you have an option to dictate how you're going to use, let's say, Martian energy. So Mars, it's the aggressive, assertive, it's the independent energy that drives you to get what you want. This is how you assert yourself. Well, if that turns into anger, well, then you're asserting yourself through anger and fighting and warring and trying to control what goes on in your life. That would be not a good manifestation of that energy. Venus is a harmonious energy. It's loving, it's kind, it's peaceful, it's about beauty, it's artistic. But if you use it to the other side to get as much as you can, such as money, and we all know what the saying is around money, the root of all evil is the desire for money.
The love of money, yeah.
The love of money. And so, you see, all energies can be used positive and negative.
Yeah, very much so. So the birth chart shows where people repeat emotional loops. What planetary configurations create the most common cycles of self-sabotage?
Oh, goodness sakes. I mean, you're talking about a tremendous amount of combinations. Okay. So, I mean, just to say one combination is preferable or not. You know, Saturn is the energy of reality structure in accordance of how we want to be secure. But Saturn is always going to test a weak link in our reality when it hits certain aspects and certain points in your chart. Uranus is the energy of break up, break out, break away, and break free from that reality. This is how we grow. To break away from consistency. Consistency supports everything staying the same. How are we going to evolve? How are we going to evolve in a consistent life? that's static. We're not. So when it comes along, it's going to break away from that which has gotten too static in your life, gotten too consistent, gotten too normalized. When Neptune comes along, Neptune is universal connectedness. So it also can be a delusion and illusion. It's drugs. It's trying to escape reality is a negative use. So when it comes along and it hits a certain relationship in the chart, well, then you're tested, so to speak. The energy, you're going to have to prove that you can use that energy in a positive way because it's universal love. So what do you choose? Pluto is called transformation of the soul. It absolutely will bring you in to death and rebirth of whatever is no longer needed in your life for you to grow. So we become very egotistically attached to the things in our life. And there's time periods when that attachment is inhibiting us from growing, from becoming more, from evolving. So it must be taken away. And Pluto don't just take it away, it rips it away. Because it's learning through pain that you never ever forget a painful loss.
Here we go with pain again.
Yes. So
okay.
Uranus changes things without a problem. It just brings positive changes. Pluto changes things through death and rebirth.
So we need more Uranus then.
Yeah. Well, it cycles every 40 years. Pluto cycles every 240 years.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So astrology is just so helpful because when people come to you as an astrologer, they're coming to you with problems and issues. They're coming to you with trying to understand their life. And when you can give them understanding, when you can give them what the soul came in here to accomplish in this lifetime, it's very relieving. Oh, I understand now. So it's elucidating. It helps people to understand the whys of life. And then it takes away a lot of the pain because just like Pluto will take away, it's like a death when you lose something that's important from you. But then it always builds you back better once it's moved into an evolutionary state. So that's why we call it heaven and hell. So yes, it's hell in the beginning because you're losing on certain aspects that you've related to. But then when it passes, it begins the evolutionary of rebuilding. And that's an enlightening process. And it's a gift. So we always have wherever there's a death, there's a rebirth. Even in a physical death, there's going to be a rebirth. Because you're moving out of a delusion and a dream into who you really truly are. And that is a spiritual being of light.
Okay, let's touch on that then. So you say the soul sets the blueprint pre-birth and there is no change in it. Where does free will fit into a pre-written destiny?
Beautiful. Good question. Now let me answer that. You got the free will of attitude. And you got the free will to use your creativity in any way you choose. And that's it. That's your free will.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, so things are predetermined. So there's a blueprint pre-birth. But then free will now gives you the ability to create then and change things based on your creation or where you're setting your intentions, the state of being that you're in because you attract what you are. So even though it is blueprint pre-birth, it is not necessarily set in stone that it has to happen like that then, because you can change based
your
on
attitude.
Okay, your attitude. And that would allow you to attract and manifest the things that you desire based on your state of being.
And with a better attitude, you can raise your level of frequency and vibration to attract the positive side of things.
Okay, but the blueprint then is almost like a default program that would run if you have a poor attitude.
Yeah. I mean, it can still be the same thing. I mean, look at people that have a bad attitude. And then
they don't manifest anything.
If they had a different attitude, they would manifest differently, wouldn't they?
Yes.
If a person has an attitude about money, saying I'm broke, I don't have enough money. But if you have an attitude, well, I got a house and I got a car and I can have food tonight, then then you're bringing in a positive way of looking at things. I might be broke today, but as long as I'm taking an action to manifest my abundance with a positive attitude, I'm taking action working towards what I do want.
That's a really interesting distinction, though, where is attitude, because I find that's really interesting, because, like, you know, we have said before that you pick your parents and everything like that. So basically you're setting up yourself for growth, because the soul just wants to grow. So it will put all these things in front of you. So that's like the blueprint. But you're saying that it doesn't have to be like that, because you can choose at any moment in time, using your words, change your attitude to not have all of the suffering then, because you're going to still have pain through the process. But the difference is that you will not have suffering. You will just have pain through growth.
That's a good way of looking at it. It's a very good way of looking at it. Very good way to verbalize it. You can have pain, but you don't have to suffer. You can change your perspective. You can change your perception of anything. Now, let me take it a step further. Well, we know that all is now. And so how does that work in the idea that we're all living in a simulation?
That's a good one. I do think we're living in a simulation, to be honest, right? Because the thing is that there's so many, it's a program. Everything works off of sacred geometry and programming, because we are a program. We're a biological intelligence program. And the reason why I say that is that if you get a cut on your skin or your body, you don't have to say, hey, cut, you need to heal. The programming inside of you knows what to do, right? So that can only be if you're part of a simulation, because it just knows what to do, right?
I like to think of it, why would a 1,000,000-year-old soul with thousands and thousands of lives come into this lifetime if it wasn't coming in to make progress? And if you want to make progress, how about if we set it up to where the right people, the right events, the right situation, the right activities are going to teach you how to come to a new perspective and perception about the errors in your ways from your past. I don't want, this is not happen chance. This soul didn't come here on happen chance.
Again, it's almost like the soul is a schizophrenic for growth. That's all it focuses on and all it cares about. And it doesn't care how much pain you have to go through. It's just like, I want to grow. You're going to go through this for me.
Well, and to take that a little further, I mean, the soul is the one that's going to be dressed when you pass by your spirit on what it accomplished and what it didn't accomplish. And it's going to agree. And that will reset the emotion to bring you back through.
Okay. Wow.
Edgar Cayce said Jesus was the quickest amount of lives to get off the karmic wheel. How many would you guess it was?
Just off the top of my head, 33?
32. Good.
Okay, wow.
That wasn't a guess. That was a very good guess. You intuited that.
I did, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see how magical that is. 32 lifetimes is what Edgar Cayce said he had.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So for listeners wanting to use their chart practically, what is one single placement or pattern everyone should look at to understand their deepest emotional wound?
The sun and the moon. That's a cycle. The cycle has a beginning and the end. When you watch the sun and the moon, there's phases. Every 3.5 days, there's a new phase. And each one of those phases around the cycle creates a different situation. It gives you an opportunity to respond and to receive, because it's also masculine and feminine properties. So when you watch the sun and the moon, people think that the moon, they do not realize that the moon is your past. It's the collection of your total past and all your memories. Your sun is your creativity. It's your drive to be. And so your past is what is keeping you from being all you can be. So you must come to terms with your past in this life and any other, which means ultimately you must come to an understanding of whatever you're facing in the now, because that's what you need to face right now. Whatever person's in your life, whatever experience or activity is in your life, it's perfect. That's exactly where you're supposed to be.
Wow. That is very, very interesting to look at it that way. The sun as your future, your creativity, what is possible, and the moon as the past. I've never heard it described like that before.
Well, it's not totally understood by many, many astrologers.
I am definitely going to listen back to this episode a couple of times, because I grasp things really quickly, and that one is very interesting, to be honest with you. But I do see where you're coming from. Guys, we're going to take a very, very short break here to say, if this conversation is landing for you, do this right now. Screenshot this episode, share it on your IG story, tag me at Adriano_246, at the Conscious Man 7 podcast, or my name, Todd Cave, on Facebook, and DM us one word that captures your biggest insight. This quick action helps more people access this work. If you're listening to this podcast on one of the podcast platforms like Spreaker, Amazon, or Spotify, give us a follow, like the podcast, and give us a 5-star rating, as this also helps us to be recommended in the algorithms and ultimately grows the channel. Also, check out the sponsor of our show, The Kembo, at thekembo.com to get yourself some orgonite pyramids, tower busters, and some cool jewelry that create orgone energy, which is the life source energy. Use coupon code CM7 to get 10% off your order. The link to their store is in the description below. Now back to Marvin. So let's touch on hypnosis and subconscious reprogramming. So you say most problems originate before age 7 because the subconscious is so open. Share a specific case where locating the first sensitizing event changed the person's life in a measurable way.
I'll give you the greatest experience that I ever had. A 60-year-old man came to me that could never take a bath and never take a shower because he had such great fear of hot water. At the age of 6 years old, he was out playing in the mud and he got all dirty. And his father came out and turned the shower on and threw him in the shower. Unbeknown, he forgot to turn the cold water on and he was scalded. Now, he's lived a lifetime of unable to take a bath and a shower. So I did an age regression back to the age of when he was thrown in the shower. I called in his father and had his father listen to the complaint that this man had. You threw me in the shower and I was scalded for all my life. I asked the father to talk to the child, this man, my client. He said, I'm so sorry that I did that. I would have never done that. I love you. And I hope you will forgive me. It changed the man's life. He called me up 2 days later and said, taking a shower, no problem.
That's powerful. So he was 60.
Yes.
Wow. So he was 6 years old when it happened, you said?
Yes.
So he spent 54 years.
Right.
Not able to have a shower.
Yeah.
So he would just, I guess, have sponge baths or?
Yeah. I didn't inquire about that. I didn't want to know. So, I mean, but this is, this goes on and on. I mean, it's like a mother called me and she had an 8-year-old that was scared to death to take a shower because he found a bug in the shower one time. So I put him into hypnosis, and children are very easy to be put into hypnosis. They go in very quickly. And I asked him who his favorite hero was. And to my amazement, he said, Mighty Mouse.
Mighty Mouse.
Yeah. This is a cartoon I watched as a little boy. So I said, do you think Mighty Mouse would be afraid of that bug? Oh, no. I said, will Mighty Mouse a friend of yours? Yes. I said, well, could you ask Mighty Mouse to protect you? Said, yes. He started taking showers.
Wow. I mean, the thing is, right? When you really look at it, we adults are just big kids. And I am almost sure that same situation would have happened to an adult where you could have used that same analogy and it would have worked. Because we're just big kids.
I mean, just change it around any way you want. anything. But people come to me, what about the woman that was a very powerful woman and an executive? And she had a husband that was abusive. And she actually came to me because she said she had a sugar addiction. All right, now follow how I work this out. You have a sugar addiction, so you're using sugar to bring the sweetness in your life. So I had to dig down in to what was the problems in her life that she was replacing with the sugar. Come to find out, her father was extremely abusive, and she was fearful of him. And he would put her down, saying she was stupid and not very smart. Well, guess what kind of husband she married?
An abusive one.
The father.
Right.
That put her down. Said she wasn't very smart. That was very, very orally abusive. And this woman had been to college. This woman was an executive.
Just goes to show you how much your childhood sets up your adult life, you know?
That's right. The childhood sets up the life. So the parents do their job of setting up your life so you can create a better life and a better self-understanding of who you truly are. Now, how beautiful is that?
Beautiful. You know, I am very tempted to say, and I'm going to say it, and I think that when people have children, I think that it requires a lot of self-analysis if you really want to help set up your children in a good way, because what you're describing is what I have seen and experienced, like dating girls that have children, that what happens is that the children become so much of a mirror that what happens is that you can end up, you end up projecting all of your fears and traumas on your children, and they become you, and then they pass that on to their children. And then you will have great-great-grandchildren be acting the same exact way as the great-great-grandmother or grandfather, right? Yeah. And it very much, I think that, you know, when you have children, you need to really do a lot of self-work, because you just creating mirrors. And, you know, I think we just pass on all the stuff that we have, and a lot of us don't really do work on ourselves.
Well, that's called epigenetics.
Yeah.
That's epigenetics.
Yeah, it is.
And
I
so
think that
what I tell my parents is I say, don't tell your children what to do, how to live, and how to be. How about just being a role model? You be a role model for your children. You be the best person you can be. And that's what your children are going to remember. Because the subconscious mind learns through association, imitation, and mimicry.
That is very well said and all true.
So I'm not going to remember what you told me I should do. I'm going to remember the way you did it.
Yeah.
So now we'll take that a step further. What about the people that come and they stay in a terrible relationship for the kids? Like the kids doesn't know that it's a terrible relationship or that there's fighting or arguing or something, but they stay in it and stay in it and stay in it, and they stay in that abusive situation. What chance do those children have of getting a bad relationship and then sticking it out and staying because that's what my mama did?
True. And the thing is, right, you could play devil's advocate here that even if one party leaves, then that's still creating the same sort of behavior that you just leave, and then you have a broken home. It really fascinates me how we end up attracting mates. And I find that relationships have taught me a hell of a lot about myself, because the women that I have attracted were very much a mirror of the things that I didn't realize I was. So they ended up just reflecting back the things that I was. And then obviously that causes frustration between both parties, because I'm a mirror of her, she's a mirror of me. You got these two mirrors in front of one another. No one wants to look at themselves in the mirror, just pointing fingers at the other one. So all we're doing is keep pointing fingers, at the other like that. And it just continues. I think it's just mad, and I think that all of us, we need to really look at ourselves in the mirror in order to break these cycles, because I think it's time to break these cycles. And if not, we're just going to carry on to the next generation,
Yeah, but guess what? Every single human being you bump into is your teacher. They are your mirrors.
Everyone.
Your greatest teachers are your enemies.
That's an interesting one.
So if you take responsibility for everything that is reflected back to you, and then try to understand your heartfelt intention, that's when you can grow. You're taking responsibility. So you use everything in life as a teacher, and you'll grow.
Yeah.
I even had one case where a young teenager was in a car wreck coming from a drunken party, and they had a wreck and 3 people died, and he was the only one that lived. And he was causing him nightmares and frustrations because he couldn't remember what happened. So I took him back to the party. I had him acclimate to the party, seeing himself leave the party. Well, he saw the car, but he couldn't see anything more than that. So I said, well, make it up. Just imagine yourself opening the car door and getting in the car. Make it up. What would that look like? Now he started getting in the car. Now he was able to see the car driver driving. So I'll make a short story. He saw that the driver was being his attention taken away from driving to the radio. They got in a wreck. He heard the ambulance coming. He saw his buddies lying on the ground all over the place, dead. And he remembered. So, a reason I tell you that is because you can't make it up. So, if it comes into your mind, you're not making it up. So I've used that technique over and over several times. Well, just make it up. Just tell me something. And you're going to pull it right out of your past.
Okay.
And if it ain't this life, it'll be another life that you're pulling from. But you're going to pull it out. You can't make it up.
Wow, that's powerful. Super powerful. So hypnosis helps reveal the truth beneath the story, like you were saying. Why does the thinking mind lie while the subconscious doesn't?
Well, the subconscious doesn't use language. It uses the somatic. feelings of the body. It uses the physical senses, what you see, smell, taste, touch. You're tighten up. And it's looking to, number one, keep you alive. So it looks for anything that's a threat. So if you walked into work and you said, oh my God, I'm late. Well, this mind is going to go, oh, well, you're going to get fired. And if you get fired, you ain't going to make money. And if you don't make money, you ain't going to put food on the table. And if you don't put food on the table, you're going to not pay the mortgage. And if you don't pay the mortgage, you see where I'm going?
Yes, definitely.
Now, you know, if you walk into late, you're not just going to immediately get fired. But this mind can still ramble on and think all those processes. And that causes your body to tighten up a little bit, which then causes the subconscious mind to look at that as a perceived threat. And that's why you're wired like your Neanderthal brothers. If they were late, they got eat.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So, how do you distinguish real subconscious memory from symbolic memory during hypnosis and avoid false narratives?
You know, there's a lot of debate about that, and a lot of people that don't agree with reincarnation that are hypnotists. So they say you make it up. And so whatever you make up, it's symbolic. It's just like a dream. All dreams are symbolic, and they're all about you. When you dream about somebody else in your life, it ain't about somebody else. It's about you. It's about an aspect of you. So you can say, well, that's a false memory. Well, you're in hypnosis, and that memory is now indelibly in that subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is going to take the easiest path that gives it comfort. So I don't care if you make it up. If it accomplishes you getting a greater understanding of the event or an event and yourself, I don't care what kind of memory you have. But I don't find false memories. I mean, you know, because I understand what's going on in the subconscious. I mean, people find themselves in situations, so I can take them through a whole lifetime. I take them through a whole lifetime, then I take them out of that life, look down at that life. I've had one lady I took back 10 lifetimes. I brought her out of one life and then described for me how she felt about that life. She goes, oh, he was a disgusting person and a terrible human being and blah, blah, blah. And then I took him into the light where the spirit and soul now is able to evaluate what they learned in that life. And it's always positive. Every life teaches something of a positive nature. But the ego mind is going to see like he was a bum. But spirit is very simple. They speak very simply and very cleanly and very succinct. I had that same person. She was thrown out of her house. She lived in New York City, thrown out of her house at 14 years old and lived on the streets. So obviously it was a rough lifetime and so forth. And of course she had some sort of angst with men. She was a, black hair, kind of a mystique kind of woman. And men would hit on her. And she would get so angry and so vile about men hitting on her. And I had her, we were going into a regression, and she says, well, before you bring me out, could you find out why I'm so angry all the time? I said, yeah. Now, here you go. So I brought her out. I took her into the light, and I asked Spirit, why was this woman angry all the time? And what came through was anger is an arrogant way to avoid forgiveness. Now that just doesn't come out of a person that's lived a lifetime in anger.
No, for sure.
That is not language that comes from a human being.
No, for sure.
Anger is an arrogant way to avoid forgiveness. That is a powerful.
Say that again. Anger is a
arrogant way
to avoid forgiveness.
To avoid forgiveness.
I'm going to use that. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's transition to soul fragmentation and integration. So you've seen powerful transformations. You spoke about the guy who couldn't shower, and you also had phobias to deep religious wounds. Tell us a story of one client whose soul fragment reintegrated and what changed the next day.
Well, so many times people keep telling him the same stories. People keep telling themselves the same story over and over and over. And so obviously they keep manifesting it. When you take them into a higher dimension of consciousness, you see it from a whole completely different perspective. A positive, because there is no negative. And so when you see it from a positive perspective at that deepest level, remember the subconscious mind takes on very quickly what makes you feel good versus what doesn't feel good. So I have people put a negative event in one hand, a positive event in the other hand. Now focus totally on the negative event. Say it over and over and over. Scan the body. How does it make you feel looking at this negative event? Now turn it over and dump it out. Now look at the positive event. Love, happiness, joy. A positive in your life. Feel the weight of it. Does it feel lighter? Now, scan the body. How does the body feel as you're looking at this positive event over and over? Now they quit trusting their mind. I haven't put their hands together. The positive dominates the negative. Put them up to their heart. The heart takes it into the positive. Their life has changed.
It's almost
they
like
now
the
see, instead of thinking in a stinking thinking, they're thinking positive. And it's from the heartfelt.
It's almost like the mind is a liar. You know what I mean?
Well, it is a liar. I get my Christians in here and I tell them, this is a liar. This is Satan. This is Satan. And their eyes get really big.
Oh, gosh. The Christians, they can come for you.
So I work to convince them. There's nothing that good comes out of you thinking and being negative. And all that thinking, do you remember what Einstein said? I think 99 times and I get nothing. I sit in silence and get the answer.
Right, right. And very true. Okay.
See, what I teach is that emotions come through at 15 milliwatts. You get uptight, you get all frisky. Well, intuition comes in at 2. How are you going to be intuitive when you're all emotionally upset?
True.
Well, you can't.
Yeah, you can't.
So
That's
when
where
you
need a
get
calm mind.
sideways, when you get emotional, you're not getting intuition. You're not getting guidance.
This is where you need a calm mind.
You're acting out of ego.
Which is why you need a calm mind in order to be in tune to intuition.
That's why you need to come into the now. Center yourself.
Okay. So when a fragment returns, what happens physically, emotionally, and spiritually in that moment?
Well, when you're in that level of consciousness, you understand why you fragmented. You understand why that what you needed to learn from that fragmentation. And then you can also be shown how you can be a little more whole by accepting the energy that fragment was stealing from you. Because all the traumas in your life is just stealing a piece of your energy.
All the traumas in your life are stealing a piece of your energy.
Wow. Traumas, accidents, angers, all the activities that take you out of being in your center, being calm and in feelings, being in love and joy.
Okay, so to someone who's skeptical, who says soul fragments are just metaphors, what behavioral evidence would you offer that real integration occurs?
How many times have you gotten so angry at something and thrown your temper tantrums and then realized you didn't need to be angry and that it was false, and you calmed down, and then you felt guilty and you felt ashamed for acting like that?
Many times.
Many times. Well, that's what it feels like to be fragmented and then to discover you're not a very good person.
Yeah, that's actually really hard for people to realize about themselves, that they're actually not a good person. And this is what facing yourself in the mirror actually looks like, you know?
Well, not only that, how bad it led to another negative situation.
True.
I mean, remember, your free will is attitude. I mean, you take a negative attitude and you can just, you can ride a boat to China with a negative attitude, with all the negativity that'll bring on.
True. All right, so let's transition into daily embodiment and practical tools. You say intuition is quieter than emotion, 2 milliwatts versus 15. What are the most effective ways to lower emotional noise so intuition becomes audible again?
Feelings. How does it feel? Not what you think. How does it feel? If you have a thought up here in your mind, you run it down here to your gut, which is your second brain. This is where all the nerves meet, right in the middle of your sternum, in your gut. And you see how it feels. And if the thought aligns up with your feelings, you can accept it. If a thought makes you feel bad, that's automatic rejection. Automatic. You don't accept negativity. You don't accept negative thoughts that the conscious mind can say. That's what they call self-talk. So you have the final arbiter is feelings. See, us hippies grew up in the 60s and they said, feel good, do it. So I was programmed early.
That's a good one, because if then your thought creates a negative emotion, it means then basically you need to dismiss that thought because is lowering your state, and you don't want anything negative inside of your energy body. So it makes sense then now to just push that away as fast as possible, which is where you're seeing.
Well, I don't even think you got to push it away. I mean, I don't like you fighting your mind. You can either
just
choose to accept it or reject it.
Or just not focus on it.
Yeah, don't even focus on it. I liked the story about the yogi that had a glass sitting on the end of a table, and the wind came in and blew it off the table and it broke into 1,000 pieces. And he looked down on it and he said, of course, because everything goes back to its natural state. And when you're thinking positive, when you're acting positive, when you're being creative, you're in a natural state of your authentic you, your individual expression of universal consciousness or God.
Okay, so give our listeners a 90-second 3-step morning ritual combining breath, birth chart awareness, and a self-hypnosis cue to align with their soul blueprint.
Okay. You want to do it with me?
Yeah, why not?
All right. I want you to start taking some breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. I want you to pick a spot. Just look up a little bit and pick a spot just above your eyes to put a little stress on your eyes. And focus on nothing but your breathing. Into the nose, out to the mouth, into the count of 5, out to the count of 8. Nice, easy breaths. Now, in your next inhale, I want you to take a big, deep breath and hold it for about 2 seconds. And when you let it out, simultaneously close your eyes. And continue focusing on nothing but your breath. Nothing but the breath. Finding the natural rhythm of your breath. And as you do, I'm going to talk to your powerful subconscious mind, your imaginary mind. I want you to imagine a brilliant white light coming into the top of your head, going straight down your spine to the bottom of your spine. A brilliant white light, dividing your body right in half. And when you see that brilliant white light, nod your head. Good. Now I want you to get a sense of the distance that your right shoulder is from that center light. Just a sense of the distance. And when you have a sense of the distance that right shoulder is to that center light, nod your head. Good. Now turn your attention to your left shoulder, your left shoulder. And when you get a sense of the distance that left shoulder is to that center light, nod your head. Now focus on both shoulders. Focus on both shoulders. And tell me, is it the left shoulder or the right shoulder that's closer or farther away than the other one?
They're all the same distance.
Okay. Stay focused on them. They staying the same?
Yeah.
One doesn't feel a little closer or farther than the other one?
One feels a little bit more stressed.
Good. Focus on that shoulder. Focus on that shoulder and see them exactly comfortable as they both are. See them in your mind's eye being very comfortable and relaxed. And when they're very comfortable and relaxed, nod your head. Good. Take a deep breath. Open your eyes. How your shoulders feel?
Relaxed.
All right, you did several different things there. When you started breathing, you moved into relaxation. So you moved out of your alpha brain waves or beta brain waves. You moved out of beta brain waves into alpha brain waves. The body was relaxed. When you visualized a white light coming into the top of your head, you moved into your theta brain waves. This is the powerful part of your brain where all magic happens. When you focused on your shoulders, what that did is you saw, some people will see that one of them is a little bit closer or further than the other. You happen to see one was a little more tense. Okay? When you focused on it, you relaxed it. You just tried it.
Yeah.
It felt relaxed.
Yeah.
And it will for several days.
Awesome.
And the same thing with if the shoulders were in different parameter to that center light. Now, a focused mind is one of the most powerful energies in the universe. You healed your body, Todd, when you focused on that shoulder being unrelaxed.
Wow, that's very powerful.
And when you opened your eyes, it took you about 10 seconds to reacclimate to your surroundings.
Yeah, my eyes were a little bit, I don't know what to say, like foggy, I guess you could say.
Okay. Well, where were you?
Not here.
Okay. That is a beautiful exercise that I use with everybody prior to me hypnotizing them, because that is an aspect of hypnosis and it can go very, very deep. I mean,
I believe that.
I want you to understand there's different levels of your brain. And that is the beta, theta, delta. And then, of course, we now understand that there's an even lower part of the brain, which is actually helps you to get into that loss of separateness. And I'm forgetting it now. But Joe Dispenza talks about it. And but it's but that's what you're doing, is getting into a different level of consciousness. So you are in a different level of consciousness when you went through that exercise.
Which is why I said I was not here.
Right. Because you were totally focused on your breathing. And then you were focused on what I was telling you.
Yeah.
So you can see how staying connected in the now.
Makes a
And
huge difference.
always
yes.
monitoring feelings is so powerful.
Okay. So how do we support people we love spiritually without rescuing them or enabling avoidance?
Quit trying to fix them.
That's it.
That's it. The Science of Mind talked about the greater sin is trying to lift the burden from the shoulders of one that's supposed to carry it. You have to understand ye are all gods. Whatever situation you find anyone in, they have the ability to make correction. They have the ability to heal their life. So there's nothing for you to do. Support them. How about just sending them love? How about sending them a bubble of peace, an energy of support? And that goes around the world. When you see people over in one of those Asian countries and they had an earthquake and you're just glued to the people and what they're going through, is your energy not with them, people? Is your love not with them, people? Yes. Well, that's how you support people, through energetically. Love and joy. There's nothing greater in the map of consciousness than joy, including love. Joy is who you are. Love is who you are.
Definitely.
And the next step is enlightenment.
Okay. So let's transition into the future of human evolution, the agrarian age. You say the agrarian age will elevate intuition, spiritual awareness, and collective consciousness. What 3 signs will everyday people notice in the next 5 years that this shift is already underway?
Well, we've talked about can you imagine the trauma that's going to go on in the world when we go ahead and make an announcement to all humanity that there is life outside of this planet?
That's going to blow off people's headpieces. Like literally, right?
Right. But, as people become more universally connected, we're going to start accomplishing things that was unimaginable. I mean, look at AI and what that's doing for the world. Look at the connection we're having. I can talk to somebody over in China and he's just as human as me, and I can talk to him with just as much love as I can talk to anybody else. We're an ocean apart, and I can love you just as much as I love my next door neighbor that I don't. But you get my point, is we're all connected. And as that connection grows, we all support each other. And as we become more supportive, we become more humanitarian. Over here, we've got this, oh, you're a Republican. Oh, you're a socialist. Oh, you're a conservative. And somebody called me, oh, you're a liberal. And it just came to me, I'm not a liberal. I'm a humanitarian. I care about all people. And that's how we're going to respond to the Aquarian age. Humanitarian. All life is important. So whether it's the trees and the forest, or it's the animals, or it's the insects, it's all a part of life, and we're all connected. And as that connection grows and becomes stronger, well, then there's more caring. There's more equality around people. So the inequalities that are occurring on the planet now are going to end. You know, so you had to go through 2,200 years of Pisces to learn to believe in something. So we started to believe in a religion. We believed in a one God concept and so on. Well, that time is transitioning into the time of brotherhood. We're all connected. We're all important in the universe. And the universe is getting ready to expand pretty exponentially.
You're telling me? I can see it already.
And life is going to get much more enjoyable. It's going to focus on our creative efforts, not the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So that's how we're going to know we're transitioning.
Okay. So what is the biggest misunderstanding humanity has about the soul, the universe, and our purpose here?
That it dies. The soul never dies. There is no death. There is no death. There's a transition to another dimension. And you are light. You're a light body. And that becomes everything you think there is instantaneous. So this is why we have to create a third dimension reality so we can learn from our thinking. And so when you operate in fourth dimension, you're operating in intuition. You ask. If I want to know something, I ask. And I hear the message. When you're in fifth dimension, that's the last dimension of being in the human body. Well, there's a lot more dimensions beyond that. And every dimension has its own delusions and illusions. So, a lot of times, people tell me, oh, I've talked to this psychic. Rah, rah, rah. I said, well, that's great. Are you sure they know what they're talking about?
Yeah.
They are not a level of consciousness bigger than you, or they couldn't talk to you.
Because they're in the same third dimension.
Right. Just because they're on the other side doesn't mean they're all in all. They can be in just as much delusion as you.
The illusion.
Right. So I have to decipher all that information. I say, oh, yeah. Maybe. If it feels good, it's right. If it don't feel good, it's not right. That's the bottom line. Stay in feelings. If you got a chance to express some love and joy and happiness of the emotions, great. You lucky you. But otherwise, stay in feelings. And that's the arbiter to all your thinking.
Okay. So let's get you on this one. Your teacher said, walk the walk. How does what does walking the walk mean for a soul in 2025?
Well, that's a great point. He said, walk the talk or throw it away. I mean, you can learn all the spirituality and the good books and all the wonderful things they say. But if you can't live it, well, then I don't want to hear it. If you don't want to live it, then don't repeat it. So you walk the talk. You live the spiritual life. The highest life, the highest good. you can possibly muster. That's how you walk the talk. So as you learn and grow, you live it, you embody it to the best of your ability. Remember, God only looks at your intention. So that's how you evaluate things. What's my intention? And if my intention, I send that. If somebody accuses me of something, I put it in my heart. Did I have some skin in the game here? Did I have an intention to mislead or misjudge or misevaluate something? And if I did, then I take responsibility. I said, well, I would rather see something like that in a different way, in a positive way. And if I don't have a bad intention and it's not something that I can feel in my heart, I tell them, well, that's your issue. That ain't my issue. Go away and come back when you got it worked out. But it all comes down to intention. What's your intention? God doesn't get mixed up with all of your daily verbiage. He wants to know your intention. If your intention is being a good person, you're in good shape. If your intention is to do evil things, well, then you're not in good shape.
All right. Marvin, this has been an awesome conversation. I am definitely going to re-listen to this show a few times because you've dropped some gems today, and I've learned a lot. So please tell the lovely folks at the Conscious Man 7 where they can find you. If you have a book you want to plug, any courses or anything that you have going on and all that good stuff.
Well, my book is Soul Fusion Healing, Integrating Body, Mind, and Soul. And that is my collection of my life's work. That is my experience of all that I've lived and all that I walk the talk to. It's got a, what do you call those things you take with your camera to go to your websites?
You mean a QR code?
A QR code. Yeah. So that's in the book, but you can also get me at blhypnosis.com. You can get me at astromarv.com. And you can get me on my website at soulfusionhealing.com. And so you can reach me. You just put Marvin in front of those and you'll get me to my email. And that's I'm easily reachable. I'm all on all social media and everywhere. So just Google Marvin L. Wilkerson.
All right. So guys, links to everything Martin will be in the description of this podcast. So guys, this has been another awesome conversation, and Marvin had touched on the body as being a very significant part of the entire puzzle. So if you would like to get yourself in the best shape of your life, but you don't know how, you don't know where to start, you don't know what to eat or how to train, and you would like to level up all aspects of your life, mentally, physically, and spiritually, hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 or my name Todd Cave on Facebook. Send me a message. Let's have a chat and see if you're a good fit for the Compound Body Training Army, because I help spiritually inclined people burn fat and build muscle. If you are on a spiritual journey, or you would like to start a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, I can help you to get some magic mushrooms. So again, hit me up on my socials at Adriano_246 or my name Todd Cave on Facebook, and I will help you through this process. If you would like to support this podcast, you can do that by visiting our merch store. We have some cool tank tops, hoodies, shirts, and sweats Link will be in the description of this podcast. And today I have on the Conscious Man 7 shirt.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So if you would like to be part of the Conscious Man 7 movement, because we are a movement now, we are in many countries on the planet. And if you would like to just support this podcast as well, because that helps us with things like editing videos and finding great guests like Marvin, just visit our store, Todd and Me, on Amazon. And if you do get any of the merch, you can take a picture of yourself and you can either email me or you can hit me up on my socials, send me a picture, and I will either repost it on my stories and or show you on the podcast and stuff like that. Guys, if none of those things resonate with you and you're one of these people that you just don't like ads, because on the podcast platforms we have ads, and you would like to get early access to all the shows that we do and get all the podcasts ad free, you can think about becoming a member of my Patreon or Locals community, and you'll get direct access to me, so you can ask me questions over there. And if you have any recommendations for guests and stuff like that, shoot me a message and I will certainly look into them. And if they're a good fit, I'll bring them onto the show. So for just a few bucks a month on the Patreon or Locals, you would help support the podcast. And also you can get direct access to me, ad-free podcasts, and you will get early releases to all of our shows. And lastly, don't forget to visit our sponsor, The Kembo, which can be found at thekembo.com. You can get yourself some cool organite, pyramids, tower busters, and some jewelry, because those create the orgo energy, which is the life source energy. Visit The Kembo at thekembo.com. Use coupon code CM7 to get 10% off your order. So if this conversation opened something inside of you, if a concept, a story, or a moment stirred a part of your soul you haven't heard from in a long time, then do us one powerful favor. Don't let that insight fade. Act on it, amplify it, and share it with one friend who is ready for this level of work. Leave us a short review on your podcast app. Just one sentence about what shifted for you today. Those reviews help us reach more people who are ready to evolve, heal, and step into their higher path. And finally, take 30 seconds after this episode ends to sit in stillness and ask yourself, what part of me is ready to be integrated next? Let that question guide you for the rest of your day. Thank you for being here, for doing the inner work, and for being part of this movement. Stay conscious, stay open, and stay on your path. Marvin, thank you very much for being a guest on the Conscious Man 7 podcast. This was a really interesting conversation. I learned a lot. It was very interesting. And I certainly will be re-listening to this episode a few times.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity. And by the way, the book is available on Amazon.
Okay, so a link to that will also be in the description of this podcast. Guys, this was another episode of the Conscious Man 7 podcast, the place where we go beyond the veil in search of the truths they hide from you to help you reclaim your power and step into the truest version of yourself. You are the help that you've been looking for. So remember, folks, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep being the change you want to see. Speak to you soon. Cheers and namaste.
Namaste.